So Ari Aster has never been afraid to make his audience feel uncomfortable, and with Eddington, his new psychological power keg, it's tapping into that paranoia and fear of 2020. Set in a town in New Mexico, Eddington is, part thriller, part dark satire, and just a bit of a headache, to be honest. But is it worth a watch? Let's find out. Alright, so before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe, do all those good things. But Eddington. So this story takes place in May of 2020, right in the early days of the pandemic. A standoff erupts between the sheriff and the mayor. A conflict that slowly builds into something more intense and, like everything in 2020, quite out of control. So Joe, our lead, is played by Joaquin Phoenix, a man caught and stuck in his old American ways, but not necessarily how or, in ways that will make the audience root for him. The film introduces us to the town, brimming with tension, misinformation, and a bizarre behavior. And like many things, this town goes crazy during the early days of the pandemic. So Phoenix gives a bizarre performance, like most of his. For the first half, Joe is quite insufferable. He's stubborn, whiny, and just darn right unlikable. It almost feels as intentional from the filmmaking perspective to make the viewer not care about him at all, until it suddenly wants us to, which makes absolutely no sense and it doesn't land. So Emma Stone does the best performance of the movie. She shines. There's a sharpness to her performance and restraint that cuts through the clutter of the script, which we'll get into. Pedro Pascal and Dante O'Connell, I think I said that right, do what they can with the little that they've got. They lean very more into exaggerated archetypes of these misinformed people during that time. The conspiracy uncle, the Facebook preacher, the politician that's heavily stuck in his own way, kind of righteous, the righteous politician. So at its core, Eddington seems to be exploring the dangers to blindly following people on the internet, especially when it comes from people around who simply speak louder or play more into directly on what we desire as people. There's a real bite to that commentary. Trust in corruption, corporations have eroded. How people are following ideologically rather than factually, and how more and more we gravitate towards voices that validate our deepest desires just to be heard as people. The film ends on a provocative note, pondering, do we always just end up as the people we despise? But unfortunately, the road to that end is long, and it's just not worth the hassle of spending 2.5 hours following these really unlikable characters. There's a lot going on here, and maybe too much. Between the constant tonal shifts, the side plots that go nowhere, and the satire that sometimes leans too far into parody, it's hard to tell what kind of film Ari Aster is trying to make. So yeah, Eddington is long. And you feel every kind of minute of that. There are moments where you are convinced it's about to end, or it should end, or you're just confused, where is this film going? Because quite honestly, I didn't even know halfway in the middle that the third act was going to turn out the way it did, and the finale turned out the way it did. It kind of just leaves you guessing, and not in a good way. Films set in the pandemic are finally moving towards less token, like, oh, look at what I mentioned masks, how fun. But unfortunately, this film progresses backwards into that token kind of storytelling. There's so much 2020 references, from masks to social distancing TikTok to, conspiracies and whatever, that it becomes bloated and kind of pointless. The production values are impeccable, as every Ari Aster film is. It looks incredible. But unfortunately, even though Ari has a controlled and unnerving and often beautiful shots, the script is all confused and all the visual polish cannot save it. So, Eddington. Is it worth a watch? That's really up to you. Are you an Ari Aster fan? Do you like his type of storytelling? I'm a fan of Hereditary, Midsommar, but this one I unfortunately couldn't get behind. It's messy. It focuses on provoking rather than educating. It has flashes of brilliant, interesting comedy and some great performances, but unfortunately its bloated runtime and script that can't really decide what it wants to be lets it down for me. But if you've seen it, let me know down in the comments below. I rate it 3 stars out of 5. Even though I did struggle to watch, there are some flashes of brilliance. And yeah, let me know your thoughts down below, and like and subscribe, do all those good things. I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.